Yeah, we should start booking people you don't like so much.
Yeah, if we booked people we didn't like, I wouldn't even talk to them at the beginning. I could be like Oprah. I had the feedback that Oprah doesn't talk to her guests at all before they come on.
Really? Maybe
No.
she doesn't want to have conversations that then people go, oh, well, we were just talking about this, and everybody feels left out. So I get it.
Actual working rock star Todd, damn it, Kerns, wide awake in Vegas.
Bless
we
him.
have our fine man, Tim Washer. We're not going to say where he's from. He's just out and about. Tim Washer, we've all seen at so many events. The funniest guy in the world.
Yellow.
Top 8 billion funniest guys in the world. Yellow. I don't get a yellow card for that. I'm being good. All right. And then
is that what he meant? It took me a second.
Yeah. So I have to remind everybody we're sponsored by StreamYard. You can go to StreamYard.com. You can't. Go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Otherwise, I don't get any credit, bitches. cbrogan.me/.
What Chris means to say is that you will save money if you want to try StreamYard if you use his link. And thank you for being so gracious.
Backpack show. I want to do over. I want to do.
You don't get one. You don't get one. Your dad is disappointed in you getting a yellow card so early in the show.
No, I didn't earn it yet. I haven't even said anything too offensive yet.
No, it's very early still. This is the Backpack Show live with Chris Brogan and me. And we have 2 guests backstage. Tim Washer, Todd Kerns. I say we start with the rock star because he never gets to be the opening act. He's always the star.
Yeah, he's always the headliner. I just made that commentary yesterday about the fact that one time ever in my life I was at a music marketing experience and Steve Harvey introduced me onto the stage because he was the MC of the event. I said, this is really like finding a busker and having the Rolling Stones open for the busker. This is like the worst thing I've ever had happen in my life.
Right? You want like Montel or something. Somebody that people will be like, I feel like I know him.
You know, a lesser host.
No, yeah.
Steve Harvey.
No.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I wanted to clap for him. Anyway, we're bringing on Todd Kerns because we have to do that sort of thing.
Yes.
Senior Kerns, how are you?
Guten Morgen, ladies and gentlemen.
Guten Morgen. Wie geht's? Es geht sehr gut.
You've exhausted my German.
That's it.
Sehr gut.
Yeah.
And then you could just say, ich habe keine Idee. I have no idea.
Wow. See? It's too early for a second. I could do some Klingon. No,
you have no honor.
Yeah. Today is a good day to die.
Like what day is it? You know.
Let's start there. Todd, by the way, it's funny that we were talking about the fact that we were talking to this actor the other day, and I had made a reference of you. Hey, it is Jack Vincent back from. We have all the returning people. Jack and Bob Collins are finally back in the fold. We made a comment the other day, Todd, that to this actor, and we said, you know, I have this friend in rock who is what I call a working musician. You know, not only are you in a band, not only do you have a band, but if Kiss needs a guy on a cruise or if Alice Cooper needs a guy, you're in the slot. I mean, back when everybody was performing, you're in the slot for a lot of bands. But people don't think that one over, right? Like in their mind, there's only a few kinds of bands, like wedding bands, real rock bands, and they don't think about session people and they don't think about working people. Talk just a minute about that. Like, what's your gig in the normal world when it works?
It's funny that you bring it up because you know, when I was younger, you know, I started in a world where you could work a lot playing cover music. Like when I first started playing music as a kid, it was sort of like you could play the local bar doing, you know, top 40 and Bryan Adams or whatever was on the radio, and you would learn all these songs and you'd play. And I was 10 years younger than everybody else, so I just kind of like went along with whatever it was. But then, you know, you started getting into writing your own music and you start chasing down that thing and getting a record deal and, you know, becoming a pop star or whatever you want to do. And then I found myself kind of come out the other side. I came to Las Vegas and there was, you know, a million. When you walk into a casino, there are probably like 5 different places in that casino that there are working musicians. There's a guy over there playing the acoustic guitar, and there's a guy in a restaurant playing piano, and there's like a little trio over there. There's a show band happening in the showroom. So I kind of like the idea, and I happen to be one of those people that was kind of like, you know, hey, do you know Rebel Yell by Billy Idol? Yes, I do. For some reason, I just know it. It's up here since high school, and I just sort of fell into this world of just being a working musician, I suppose. And I kind of didn't really lose that idea that if I'm working, say, Thursday to Saturday doing something. There we go. That's a.
I don't know how to make it quiet, but I was trying to do it without.
When you share, you uncheck the share audio.
Uncheck audio.
That's in Hellfest in France last year.
You just have to watch a few seconds of it.
Yeah.
Look at that crowd.
Wow.
Can you imagine being at your job and having that go on? That's Todd's butt right there.
Stop it! You're gonna make the ladies thirsty.
It's funny because everybody sort of comments on that sunset and all that kind of stuff. And the weird thing is when you're there, you're just kind of like rocking and you're doing your thing. And it wasn't until later that someone posted that video and I said, wow, this is ever beautiful. And I'm like, yellow card. You got a yellow card, see? But basically I just kind of, I consider myself pretty blue collar as far as like, I kind of like, you need me to put in a sink? I'll put in that sink. I mean, musically, I don't ever ask me to put in a sink because that would be a terrible idea.
People are really thirsty for your action figures, I guess.
That is a skateboard, and that is a Marvel Comics Alice Cooper.
That's
first edition. Yeah, just some random things in my house. My house is like, it basically looks like, I don't know, some teenage boy from 1977 lived here.
Oh, that's Bob Collins.
When I got my time hanging out with you backstage and everything like that, I asked a few music questions, and it was really funny how fast that stopped being the conversation. We really all Marvel movies and stuff like that. It was. I wanted to talk
about work all the time.
Oh, but yeah, that's just it. The number one thing I learned about bands is don't talk about music with them. Talk about what else they're into, because you're always doing music. So is that how that goes?
I suppose. I mean, in reality, music is such a big part of everything for us, and I think when you get onto how it is, you kind of collect your tribe by the music you like and the films you like and the television shows that you've been watching, and you just sort of build this. I mean, as much as religion and politics is obviously, a big part of our tribe as well. But I find that, you can go down a rabbit hole about the Ramones or Kiss or whatever and just sort of build a relationship on that guy. I love that guy. He's got the same taste in music. It's probably the most narcissistic thing, really, is I like that guy because he likes things that I like, is essentially what we end up kind of doing. But no, I wouldn't say that I mean, if you came to my house, it's ridiculous music stuff. I just found this old Rob Zombie action figure was on the floor for some reason this morning.
Is that a McFarlane toy?
It's a McFarlane, and I just realized he fell on the floor and I had to kind of repair him.
You're so get so excited.
Yeah, there is a lot of, it's a mixture of pop culture nonsense and music in my house. So it's basically just to live in a state of arrested development for as long as possible. Avoiding a job, avoiding a real job, I think is
the real job is the
You're killing it. Kate wants to know what a yellow card is. Kate, a yellow card is when Chris says something that's questionable at best and possibly inappropriate. He gets a yellow card. He did make a yellow card for me as well. I don't think I deserved it, but it's in the wings in case
we need it. Rob Zombie, by the way, was born and raised with his little brother Spider, 15 minutes south of here. So
that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't visit that often, and it's earned me no points trying to reach out to him ever. But
I've never talked to the man. We played a million festivals together. I kind of know John Five, his guitar player, and big fan. I mean, I'm a big fan of those kind of guys who are Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance, or some of those guys who kind of like, they've not only got music, they've found themselves working in comic books and film and television. I find that kind of stuff, like, as you know me because I immediately went to you and went, have you seen the new Batman trailer? Right. And we went down that rabbit hole. That's kind of where my whole thing is. And my friends know me. I was texting with Slash yesterday because he kept asking me questions about the Batman trailer. Who's in this? What is this? And I'm going like, I'm pretty sure that's Paul Dano as the Riddler. I was kind of like, putting dots on I's and crossing T's about the whole thing. And then after I wrote that, I go, every time I read what I just wrote you, I can't believe I have a wife.
and very attractive and smart and very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
The funniest thing is, I remember before the Justice League movie came out, I'm going to get really nerdy for you. I remember having a sort of friendly argument with the woman who would become my wife about how can they include Aquaman? And I said, of course they have to include Aquaman. He's a massive part of the Justice League. And she goes into that the classic sort of like, but Aquaman is silly and he talks to fish. And I go, this is ridiculous. And I remember talking to Myles Kennedy, the singer in our band later on, going like, I'm just kind of like joking about this like thing, saying, yeah, we had this, friendly argument about whether to include Aquaman. He goes, you probably should marry that girl. So I did. Yeah,
he was right.
I love it. They think you're talking music or like, whatever, great life questions and stuff. And instead it's like Kirk or Picard.
Yeah, that actually is a big part of my life. But the same thing, it's kind of like, Rolling Stones versus Beatles. These are the kind of like rabbit holes I'm constantly down with my friends. So
Paul Miller's joining the backpack today. He says, Rob Z is a great frontman. Always a good time. John Harrison says, I was texting with Slash.
No big deal.
Yeah.
And Bob says you're a classic nerd, and so is he. So
yeah.
He's your people.
Frank, little boy
There's
Frank.
There's our little buddy Frank. Yeah.
And Scott says Picard. See, now that's debatable. He's my pretend boyfriend, and I'm still like, but Kirk did more with less. I don't know.
Oh, that's a rabbit hole because we just I was just talking to my wife. I said one day we were like in the middle of this whole thing. I pressed play on the pilot of Deep Space Nine, and I said just give it a chance. She'd seen it back when it first kind of did its first run, and I go, let's just give it a chance. And I thought secretly to myself, we're in the middle of like what I thought was going to be 2 weeks off or a month off. I thought this will be a great way to pass the time. And then halfway through, you're thinking, are we going to make it to the end of season 7 before this thing goes back to normal? That's so long ago now, but there is that conversation now. I think Cisco might be the best captain, and that's a whole other show. So we'll tune into that later.
Wow, I was going to probably be the only one to watch that show.
Yeah, Pike in there after Star Trek Discovery, but listen, we gotta ask business questions and things like that. But John's here, and he wants to know what are the kind of common denominators that most make up the musicians you find most interesting. I feel like you answered super nerds, but
Well, I think that it's funny because when we talked earlier about staying up all night and partying and all that kind of stuff, that was a big part of when we were younger. When I first started playing with DS9 is a rabbit hole. Thank you. When I first started playing with Slash, there was a brief moment where I was sort of like at rehearsal and we're playing a song. And I thought there's something kind of strange here, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And then I realized he's not smoking. That image of Slash with the cigarette and the Jack Daniels bottle, this whole thing that who he was prior to the version that I know. A lot of my like Gilby Clarke and the old Guns N' Roses guys will go, I don't know the Slash that you know. The Slash I knew was that 1.0, and I kind of have this sort of updated version that is a healthy, strong, focused kind of guy. And I think that sort of in a lot of ways we all kind of we kind of partied and we did that whole thing, and then eventually you realize that I'm a musician, and I think it's my own vanity that said I can't go on stage at half my ability because I was drunk or hungover or whatever. And I just thought, you know what, I want to be the best I can be and do that kind of thing. So I think in our band, especially, we really have a relatively sober. I mean, not everybody can have a drink once in a while or something like that, but it's sort of like you take what you do seriously, and you you don't want to be the weakest link. That's never, you always want to make sure that you're on point and showing up at 100% capacity. So,
and you traded it in for coffee. You and the boys really talk a lot about important coffee places.
Oh, I know. Actually, it's funny because I'm not quite as bougie as my bandmates. It's kind of like they got like the apps and stuff, and we'll be in like, Germany, Berlin, and they'll go like, oh, this is the top rated place. We have to go like 45 minutes that way to get. I go like, there's coffee downstairs in the lobby. Let's just get coffee. And they're like, no, this is the place. And I go, okay, well, so off we go. And they're never wrong. It's just kind of like, it's not as much of a destination as back in the day, it'd be, where's the strip club, or whatever, rock and roll.
That's like, people think that you're you're different, that you're not people, but you're regular people. You just have an extraordinary job. One of my friends got to go backstage and meet Jeremy Irons at a Broadway show he was doing.
Wow.
And he wanted to know, did anyone know where there was a 24-hour bookstore? And she's not even from New York, and she just happened to know. And so they were instant friends. It's like, that's what they're talking about. They're not like, tell me about the craft,
Right.
Not constantly.
Yeah. No, I know. That's funny, because every time I get to a new town, it's like, where's the vinyl shop, like the record shop, the coffee shop, all that kind of stuff. Bookstores are a big one too, like vintage books and stuff like that. So, and when you go to Europe and stuff like that, that is such a great like rabbit hole to go down, because it's like, then you find the really crazy stuff. So, like you say, it's it's different than than it used to be for me. But at the same time, I'm glad that kind of went that way, because otherwise it'd be like, it's hard enough to remember a European trip anyway, with the jet lag and the touring and all that kind of stuff. So, but now I have a lot of destinations in each city to kind of seek out,
It can't be fun to be like the dad in a band that's still in that phase too, like where they still want to party super hard, and you're like, you feel like you stayed too long at the fair or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Bob says the baseball analogy debut episode of the uncertainty of the future and the joy of mystery of life, but not knowing what's next. Bob is like super deep. Hi, Debbie. Debbie Saviano is a previous guest from Women's Leadership Live. Thank you for joining. And Bob Collins wants to know, where's the used bookstore?
Yeah, where's the used book in New York City? Is that what we're talking about?
I think it's Strand.
Bob's in Boston.
Oh, in Boston. Okay, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot.
Maybe you just needed to know for the future.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot in New York. I know that. I've sought them out.
And then in LA, they've got the Last bookstore.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's a fun one too.
I don't know about
pictures from there.
Is that right?
Yeah, I went in there, because you have to be nerdy, and my ex Jack and I went in there, and she has that, framed a little circle picture.
I have that same one.
Yeah, it's like everybody makes that picture. So.
Everybody gets that one.
But imagine that, though, the fact that there's people who love books the way they love bands, and I think that's a fun thing. Talking about the normalcy of it, it is 1-something in the morning. I'm in Boston. I'm at the Hotel Colonnade. I am with Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators. My pal Joseph Fahmy is there, and I don't remember who else. And Brent Fitz comes into the room much later, and he goes, guys, and he hands me a white substance. You know what it was? Toothpaste. He had gone to see his dentist. He had all kinds of toothpaste. He goes, I can't take all this home with me. And I left hanging out with a rock.
I love that.
Toothpaste.
You got a parting gift of dental supplies. I love that. Yeah. Gone are the days where it would have been like, I need to get this across the border. Can you put this in your intestinal canal somehow?
Put it in your prison wallet.
Be creative. It's your call.
Yeah, just has to get there. Yeah.
Exactly. Somewhere a dog won't sniff. Bookstore and Waffle House. Bob wants to know if you're a Waffle House guy.
There's a chicken and Waffle House in Los Angeles called Roscoe's that we generally, as a boring vegetarian, I will definitely get down with some waffles. But we go there usually after we're done a record. It's suddenly, well, what's the least healthy place we can go? Not to like bring down the good name of Roscoe's, but that's where we usually would end up, at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in Los Angeles, California. Delicious.
Is it even a question? You got to have chicken and waffles. There's my picture. My book picture. The one everybody gets.
That should be on your Tinder profile right there.
Look, I read. I did put some thought into the book I selected. I chose Daphne du Maurier.
Oh my goodness.
Historical fiction. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
What book really expresses me as a person?
Oh, look, Susie's here representing Winnipeg, by the way.
Oh, yes. Whoops. Stop touching buttons. Stop it.
I'm sorry. I'll go back to my beads.
I love it. Winnipeg. Yeah, I was just talking to, I do my own talk thing on Thursdays, and my friend Clifton Collins Jr., who's in Westworld. I'm dropping names. Watch your feet. He was on Westworld and a bunch of these cool, Pacific Rim, Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek. And he said he was shot the movie Capote, Philip Seymour Hoffman's Capote, in Winnipeg. And I go, oh God. And he goes, yeah, it was about 35 below. I go, why would they put you there in winter in Winnipeg? It's
my God,
coldest place on the planet. but God love it. I'm from Saskatchewan, the next province. That's where this Starbucks cup is from. I don't know if you can read that. But it's also freezing cold.
When I first started podcasting, I have a weird non-accent sort of. My dad was Harvard. My mom was from Somerville in Boston, which is like from the town. So people said I sounded a little bit like I was from Saskatchewan. I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, that's a very specific accent. I don't really have an accent. Well, I do have an accent, but when I talk to my family, my wife always kind of looks at me like who are you?
Who is this man?
It just immediately comes out, and then it stays for like an hour, and then it kind of goes back to the whatever.
So now it's come out. I always think when you say Saskatchewan, I have to think of the Rheostatics song Saskatchewan, which is like such a deep late mid-90s kind of cut or something.
I love that you know who the Rheostatics are. This is that's a rabbit hole too.
Oh, we've only just begun.
Danzig Gozer mashup shirt is incredible.
Oh, thanks.
I know that is the best. Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I was thinking, I have a Rogue One shirt, but it's in the laundry, so I can't nerd out for Todd.
Please do.
Next time,
I nerded out for Watcher. Tim Watcher and I are wearing essentially the same shirt. That's what my plan.
Yeah.
Same underwear, which is really awkward, but I got to say,
Oh, you got your Batman underwear on today?
Yes, I do.
Always.
I'm wearing my brown pants.
Always.
The two seasons in Winnipeg, winter and the 11th,
of July. I like the 11th of July.
Right.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Very specific.
It's amazing out there, though, because any of those towns that are sort of remote, Winnipeg has an amazing art and music scene that I didn't know about until I finally found myself there. But it's so kind of its own little oasis of freezing cold ice. But so they really have a huge support system, and a lot of my friends that went on to be actors came from there, and a lot of musicians too. Fitz loves it because Brett Fitz. The Winnipeg Jets is the hockey team, and we'll be at the Coliseum in Rome, and he'll point out, check it out, and there'll be some guy like way on the other side with a Winnipeg Jets jersey on, and I go, where are all these Winnipeg people? They're everywhere. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, Canada by just nature tends to really represent. So,
my uncle was a working musician for a long time. Went on the late night shows, played Top of the Hub in Boston, all that stuff. And amazing. I promised him that if he came and watched today, I would tell everyone what a key influence he was on my life. So in my formative years, that's why I'm so classy as I am now. But when do you reach the point in your music career where you're like, this is the trajectory, this is how I want, this is the balance I want in my life? Or do you think like I want to break through? When do you decide I want to be a rock star or I want to be a musician? And is there a difference?
It's really interesting that you bring that up, because when I first came, like I said, when I came to Las Vegas, I never moved to Las Vegas. I just found myself in Las Vegas, which I think is a whole other. A lot of people, Hunter S. Thompson finds themselves in Las Vegas, but I sort of just all my friends were working musicians here, and I just love that whole community thing of like getting a phone call and saying, hey, what are you doing Wednesday night? We're playing at this thing. Come down. Great. Just show up, jam, play. And I started to kind of like have this. Prior to that, I lived in Vancouver, Canada, and that was one of my favorite places in the entire world. It's one of the most beautiful cities and has a great scene. It's also one of the most expensive places in North America to live. So I found it to be very, it was very common to see like 2-3 guys living in an apartment trying to make it. And then I would be, by the time I got to Vegas, it was like, I was really happy to be just kind of put on my hard hat and go to work and play music and be a working musician.
Go Jets. That's what we've got for you, Todd.
Go Jets.
Woohoo, go Jets.
Still repping it. So not only do you have the whole Took scenario going on that we haven't barely talked about, but you've played in a whole bunch of other operations as well. Oh, did I not add this? There we go. Is it weird toggling between the kinds of bands? When you're with Slash, you're a team. You and the whole rest of the group are like a solid unit. But you're working with and for Slash versus when you're running a band and all that. What are the different kind of mental works you have to put yourself through to kind of get yourself to, how do you kind of keep that all in your brain? You work a lot of jobs, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, that's the other side of it too, is because I was a guitar player, singer in this band, the bass player in Slash. So I've had the ability to wear a lot of different hats. And I think that's kind of part of it too, is I started off as a bass player when I was a kid, and then my little brother picked up the bass, so we put a band together, and I'm going to be Paul Stanley out front playing guitar, and he'll play bass, So there was a lot of that. So now when I do other things, it's usually based on, it's a completely different position, as it were. So with Slash, it's kind of like, when I joined Slash, Myles Kennedy, the singer, has always been the lead singer in Alter Bridge, his own band. So there's always been this sort of like give and go type thing. And then the Took one that you're showing now, Took, we put together with Brent Fitz, the drummer for Slash, plays bass in this thing in Took, and I'm playing guitar and singing rather than playing bass in Slash. And what we base that entire thing on is learning a bunch of Canadian cover songs that we grew up on and playing these charity events in places like Winnipeg. And we would play April Wine and Loverboy, and the list goes on, just for fun. And then it's sort of, as you do, musicians sort of start coming up with music, and the guitar player plays with Shania Twain, and the drummer plays with this and that. And we just started to kind of write our own music. So it's been really fun for me. And that's kind of how I operate. I think I'm really, there are 365 days in the year. And I find that, each one of these kind of projects sort of, when the Slash thing fires up, it's sort of all encompassing. There is sort of like we're making a record, then we're going around the world a few times, and then you get spit out the other end of it. And you go, okay, well, now I'm going to go do this. I made an acoustic record that was predominantly my love of like those Johnny Cash records and that kind of stuff. And I always love the idea of, I'm going to take this guitar and jump on a Greyhound bus and ride across the country. And so I do that once in a while, and then I'll find myself in a rock band, and then I'll find myself playing. I have friends. The cool thing about Vegas is that there's like friends who have a Beatles band, a Beatles tribute band, and great, I'll show up and bring my Paul McCartney bass, and we'll play Beatles songs. And I just like to be kind of busy. And like I say, there's 365 days of the year. So, once in a while it's nice to, I'm really, really talented at like making up a good reason to rewatch Lost or Game of Thrones. so it's kind of like, I almost have to kind of entertain the idea of like, well, I could sit here and rewatch this thing that I've seen 1,000 times, or I can go and write songs, or whatever. And that's been the interesting thing about this particular lockdown, is although there's not any gigs, I have people coming at me left and right, writing songs, recording this, doing a vocal for this, sending this off. And I think that's been really fun, actually. I'm probably having more fun than I probably should be during a worldwide pandemic. But
enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's like, again, plus there's also all that other time to watch Deep Space Nine or Game of Thrones or something.
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit of potpourri.
Winnipeg. John Harrison's another Johnny Cash fan. Sir, we have a Johnny Cash museum here in Nashville.
I know, I've been.
Oh, my kids love it. You can listen to all the songs in the booths and stuff.
It's amazing.
Only yesterday did I learn that Johnny Cash was a Morse code operator for the military, and he was the one who received the message that Joseph Stalin was on the way out. So
wow, I think I probably heard that, but I've never retained that. That's so crazy. Wow.
I read his first wife's book. It was interesting. Another perspective on the early days.
June. Yep. So listen.
No, before June.
Before June.
Yeah.
Pre-June.
Right. It would be like Roseanne's mom, Roseanne Cash's mom. Yeah.
Right.
I like the way they kind of tried to portray that kind of character in the Dewey Cox movie, the Walk Hard movie. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Who didn't see Walk Hard? Come on.
It's tough. It's tough when everyone is so wedded, if you'll excuse the use of the word, but to them as a couple, June and him, and then to try and explain like his origin story, you have to include his first wife, obviously the mother of his children. People are like, just skip that part.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares.
Well, we rocked it out. We cashed it out. We did all the things.
Enjoy your pandemic.
Enjoy your pandemic. That should be a t-shirt.
Attitude is inspiring. Enjoy your pandemic probably is a t-shirt. I'm very excited about Lost. Dewey Cox. And Debbie Saviano has promised that they're getting me an autograph photo of my pretend boyfriend, Triple H.
Triple H.
Wow. I actually have 3. Jean-Luc Picard, Triple H.
Who's the third one?
Jack Bauer from 24.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well.
Yep.
He's Canadian.
Canadian person is required by law to say this.
Canadians point out other Canadians. All the time. I think he's born in Canada. I'm not sure. We're going to claim him anyway.
Okay. That's legit. Did we point out that Susie is in Winnipeg?
Todd, stick around if you can, and we'll bring you back for a little panel near the end, and I'm going to bring you backstage. Thank you so much for being on this morning. Todd Kerns You're watching the Backpack Show. You're not sure why, but you are. And
when Todd was talking about his life and the things he jumps from one thing to one thing, I'm thinking, you may ask yourself, how did I get here? It must be weird some days.
You know how you end up being a working rocker is you find yourself doing all of the things. That is exactly the deal. So now my own personal rock star, very different kind of soul, but and a performer, an entertainer, every single bit.
And like Todd's so humble and low key about it all.
The lowest of keys.
Yep.
Tim Washer. Hi, buddy.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Carrie.
So
Thanks for having me on.
I didn't know how funny you were when we first met. We first met at South by Southwest, and Ann Hanley and I were walking on this bridge in Austin. And all of a sudden, you were walking the other way. Oh. You turned around and started walking with us, and you didn't say a thing. And she didn't say anything. And I spent a full like city block going, the hell? Like this guy's just walking with us. Right. And it turns out you had arranged to meet somewhere on the bridge and whatever. But nobody tells me this. And so I spent the whole first, I don't know, 10 minutes I knew you thinking you're some weird creepy stalker.
Well, that most people still think that. So
first impressions being what they are.
Yeah, they stick. They stick.
You know, your origin story is a lot different. You weren't playing in bands when you were 10 that I know of. But you did. I found you sort of almost at, one of the early peaks of your world. I mean, you still have so much more to get done, but I found you in this moment where you were able to bring comedy to corporate life, which is just not, it's usually done so poorly that I had written you off the moment I met you thinking, well, this is going to be this again. And I was deadly wrong because
like mandatory fun.
Super fun, super good. But that couldn't have been how it started. Like you couldn't have been like 13 saying one day I will tell stand up at IBM.
Not at all. Not at all. I was, it was like in 1998. I was up here in working in New York City, and I was going to a church in New York City. Oh, Carrie and we talked about this before on your podcast. But anyway, I was working as an analyst, as a marketing analyst, market research, working with high tech clients, but wasn't really feeling fulfilled. I was like, this is fun. I'm okay at it, but I don't know if that's really what I'm supposed to do. And I was going through this devotional guide during the season of Lent at my church. It was Fifth Avenue Presbyterian. And I read this quote by this theologian, Frederick Buechner, who says, the place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And I was like, oh. And then there were some questions. And it's like, hey, all of us have been given a special gift, a spiritual gift. What is yours? And I thought it was humor. And then it said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a steward are you being of this gift? And I thought 0. I'm not doing anything with it. And Chris, that was at that moment, I felt this word. I didn't hear anything audible, but I felt this word, obligation. And I realized, as afraid as I was of going forward and trying to do humor, I didn't have a choice anymore. And it's amazing, man. I just started asking friends, what do you do? A buddy said, go to the Upright Citizen Brigade and take an improv class. So I go there. My instructor is Amy Poehler. This is 2 years before she gets on SNL.
That's a Todd Kerns style name drop right there. Nicely done.
Boom.
My foot.
Boom. That's right. And Billy Idol's there, and I'm playing Rebel Yell. So I made that up. Just tag on. So, of course, it wasn't a big deal because Amy, nobody knew. She was just an improviser at the time, and it's just crazy how when you kind of get lined up with what you're supposed to do, all these doors open, and you just all you have to do is get yourself to kind of step forward, which is not easy. But when you do, these crazy doors open up, So that's how I ended up.
You Mike Wazowski'd him. I did not push that button, everyone.
Mike Wazowski him. I got to learn about put a different spot on the screen. I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in the corner.
You've written on SNL. You've done some incredible things, but people remember you in our space for Nothing Says Romance, like the new IBM VX AS400 system. It was actually a Cisco router, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That was we had it's a $250,000 router that Cisco sells to like AT&T and the big telecom companies. And we were the line, we were trying to figure out a way, something interesting, a hook, to create a little silly commercial around, and we couldn't find anything. And so we thought, okay, the launch date's February 9th. Well, let's pitch this $250,000 router as the perfect gift for your Valentine. And just built a commercial from there. And that had some staying power. I remember like David Meerman Scott wrote about that, and he used to show it at conferences. And
it's so good.
The thing is, when you do comedy and you can do it well without too many people coming in from a committee and saying, let's soften it a bit, man, it really stands out.
Yeah. Check it out. Let's check it out.
No volume though.
Oh, I said to share it. Here, I'll make it play correctly for you.
Where are the dinosaurs? Where are the dinosaurs? That was from an old Mac commercial.
Oh, I know. Here you go. Now I'll start it for you.
How many ways can a man tell his sweetheart, I love you? Until now, the answer was 3. He could buy her expensive diamonds. He could take her on a tropical vacation. Or he could carve his initials into a tree, then carve a heart, and then carve her initials. But now, he can give her the ultimate expression of his everlasting affection. The Cisco ASR 9000. Because nothing says forever like up to 6.4 terabits per second. Nothing says commitment like up to 400 Gbps per slot. And nothing says I love you like 6 times the mobile backhaul capacity. How many ways can a man say I love you? The answer is 4. The Cisco ASR 9000.
How perfect can it be?
How do you get that done in a place like Cisco?
And you gotta have so much of comedy. I think comes from a good chemistry with a partner. It's really important to work with somebody who's not just funny. You can work with a lot of people who are funny, but you got to have a good chemistry. And so one of my best friends is a guy named Scott Teams, and we took that idea. Melissa, a friend of mine, Melissa Mines, who I went to UT with, brought me into Cisco, and she said, "Hey, let's do this video," and I worked with Scott, and he was too busy. He was working on his feature film at the time, That Evening Sun. And that won South by Southwest. I mean, the guy's an amazing, he's so gifted. He won 2 awards at South by. He won Best Narrative and Best Ensemble Cast. And that was his first feature. He just had his second one out called The Quarry, just came out. It was supposed to be at South by. Actually, I bought tickets for my daughter and I. We're going to go down and see him. And of course, it closed down. So they launched The Quarry virtually, which was kind of a bummer. But Scott, we just have a good, man, when we start talking and stuff, just these crazy ideas come up. And he's one of those guys that you cherish that chemistry, and the time together to create. It's just such a joy. And anyway, he was busy. He said, "Man, I can't help you with this right now because of the feature film." And so I went and I found these images on Getty, and I sent the images to him, and he fell in love with them. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to do this." And so, he made the time, he made it work. And, it's hard to find a good comedic editor and a director. And, if it wasn't been for Scott, that would have been nothing like that.
It's definitely a gift. You kind of have it or you don't. Some people can try to learn comedic editing and it kind of doesn't ever work. Bob Collins says, "You had me at 6 times the mobile backhaul capacity."
I knew that would appeal to Bob. I had Bob in mind when I wrote that line.
I bet.
I got to tell you something. I used to, before I did all this dumb stuff that people know me for, which is so trivial, I used to work in mobile telecom and I used to build data centers. And so as I was watching that, I was like, I know every word in this thing. And I got excited, even though those numbers are way out of number now. Like they're, it's everything is like 10x that now.
Yeah, it's like the poor cousin now.
But as I was listening to that, I was like, this is great because it's funny as heck for someone who has no idea what they're watching.
Yes,
and
that's what's amazing about it.
The engineer who's like, I need one of those. I need 4 of those, obviously. Right. And so that's the power of that. And it's, again, what Carrie said about getting them to say yes. Also, I want to just throw a little yellow highlighter on the way you explained how you got that partnership going, was he said no. And you said, perfect. What about these?
Yes. Yes.
That's a move.
Debbie says, you had me at the diamond ring. I don't know, 6 times the mobile backhaul capacity, Debbie.
Could be both.
Value yourself.
Could be.
Tim, one thing I never really realized until this very day, you have acted as a man of faith every time I've ever met you. You've acted as a good representation of the right kind of person to know. I didn't realize you were such a man of faith. Has that changed, altered, or otherwise been impacted by the last several months? Tell me a little bit about you.
Oh, yeah, but actually more so, Chris. I got divorced about almost 5 years ago, and I totally withdrew from my faith. And I think it was just this feeling of, I know I've struggled for a while just feeling unworthy, not worthy, and so I really withdrew from my faith completely. And I stopped going to church. I couldn't pray. I mean, I wouldn't make myself pray. And about last April 2019, I got up one morning and I just had this feeling of like, okay, you should go to this other church, Walnut Hill. So I said, all right, fine. So I show up there and there's a young guy named Brian Mowry who's preaching. And man, this guy is one of the funniest people I know. I mean, it's like a Chris Rock show. I mean, he was killing it. But Chris, he also says, look, he'll talk about mistakes he's made as a dad, where he screwed up with his daughters and how he's received grace. And man, at that moment, I was like, this is where, I just felt reconnected to my faith. And we've gotten to be really dear friends. Actually, I had dinner with Brian last night with his family. And I've been working, he just finished a book. I was one of the readers on it. It's called The Other Side of Yes. I think it comes out September 20th. So I helped him write the study guide on that. And, it just became a joy, and I'm so grateful I reconnected. Now, as far as the last 6 months, I've had a lot of struggle. I've been really depressed at times through COVID, because one of the things, we get some energy, even if you're an introvert at a point, speak in front of audiences, and we love seeing each other at these conferences, and that's all gone. And then also my income's gone for the year. Everything was canceled. Yeah. So I still, even as recently as 2 days ago, man, I had a really dark day. And so I'm leaning on my faith to get around to answer your question. I'm really trying to lean on my faith. I'm asking friends to pray for me, to help me kind of push through this resistance and get back on path of the calling and do, because I know I'll have these ideas of this video that I need to produce. And I'll know that's something I need to do to be obedient, but I'll let fear and self-doubt get into, just ruin me.
Even at this point, so, like fear and self-doubt when making a video.
Oh goodness. Yes.
Which absolutely. The stakes are pretty low. I mean, so what if somebody doesn't like it? Right?
You know what? Listen, that's exactly right. And
yeah, but you're saying that like as if a depressed person has like normal responses.
I'm not. I'm saying like that's it doesn't take anything at all to kind of make you feel as though you can't do anything, I guess.
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah.
That's right. Another guy, we had this crazy guy at church. He's our family pastor. And he grew up in a gang in South Africa. I mean, this guy's crazy. And then he came over here. Dude, he's nuts. His name's Craig Horn. He came over here on a scholarship to play soccer. He's an amazing soccer player in the U.S. and he stayed, and then he became a pastor. It was his birthday last week. I took him out for lunch. We're having lunch. It's pouring down rain, and this big SUV comes swerving around the corner and turns on its side like this. And lands in the ditch.
Wow.
And before I can look up, Craig's already across the street, climbing up on the smoking car and pulling this young lady out. I mean, he's that kind of crazy guy. And when you're in a situation like that, where there's danger and everything, and you go through that with somebody, that's an incredibly bonding experience. And it helps you feel a little more encouraged of like, okay, that's a site. Craig asked me, he said, listen, dude, can you make some videos? We're going to have a summer camp for the kids, make some videos. Now, Carrie, the stakes were so low on that. It's like, okay, look, only the kids at church are going to see this. And it was easy for me to say, all right, yes, I can do that. And they needed one. creating one a day, and they turned out. I was really happy at how they came out. But that was sometimes I think when you're stuck, if you're intentional, if you pray, if you expect things to come your way, they will, and that what Craig gave me, this little opportunity to make these silly videos where the stakes were almost a zero. I was able to kind of pull myself back up and say, all right, I can do this.
Get a little taste of success.
Yeah, that's right. And then the feedback came in, and then the parents started saying, oh, wow, this is funny. And like I did Jonah, I did the story of Jonah where he gets swallowed by a whale. I did that for Shark Week, during Shark Week, and talked about him getting swallowed by a whale shark. And just crazy things like that. Yeah.
We are going to segue back into bringing our pal Todd on, because I think that what we see in this is that there's connections. I'm a speaker. Carrie runs events when she's not running every award-winning podcast, it turns out, in the world. And Todd performs, and Tim, you've kind of set into a different role. It's not so much MC, but we're all in those same spots. We're all like looking to find that money we all just lost. We're all looking to figure out how to keep above water, and find great reasons to get out of bed. So it just seemed like it's worth it to kind of bring the story bigger. It was funny. One other thing, Tim, when you were talking that story, I was thinking about the old SNL skit when Hercules is there and he's talking about lifting a rock, and they're like, well, if you're that strong, lift that rock. And he tries and he tries and he can't get the rock up. And he goes, perhaps if I lifted a smaller rock. That's how depression feels sometimes. I'll just lift a smaller one.
Yeah.
Where you can use your gifts. You're both using your gifts to make your living. And I think that's so inspiring. There's a lot of people that have a gift for something and they love doing it, and they're like, my dad wants me to be an accountant, so I guess that's what I'll do. George Lucas's parents wanted him to be an accountant, and think how different the world would be today, especially for us nerds.
Leonardo da Vinci started out as an accountant. True story. He was an auditor.
Wow.
And then decided, you know what, I'll make a parachute instead before we have an airplane.
Wow.
So, what color was it?
Had the Star Wars logo on it. It's crazy, prescient.
Wow.
Don't even know.
This is how it goes today.
So
this is what business does to you.
What tells you internally, though, that you're on the right path? Like, Todd, how did you know that this was something you were going to be able to make a living at instead of just occasionally do for fun? Like, what? Or did you not know? Did you
I think I'm still waiting for someone to come along and just tap me on the shoulder and go, "Thank you." You're good. That's enough. But I think that, there's a great line in this song, "God Gave Rock and Roll to You" by Kiss, originally done by Argent. This is a rabbit hole. Follow me, people. Wow. But there's a great line in that song that always resonates with me. It says, "It's never too late to work 9 to 5." And I believe that to be true at any given moment when your time is up. As far as I have so many friends that are actors and stand-up comedians and writers and all that kind of stuff. And everybody, you have these sort of peaks and valleys and feasts and famines of work. And, you have to be okay with the fact that if this all goes away tomorrow, I'll be like, you want fries with that? And you have to kind of know that that's just the way life goes. No one owes you anything. And I'm very aware that, these things can happen. So whether it's me playing, Rebel Yell by Billy Idol, triple reference in this show, then I think that, that to me is as long as I'm playing guitar and someone's actually handing me some money after it, then I'm like, I've won. This is a Grammy to me, as far as I'm concerned.
Bob Collins says Will Ferrell was a bank teller. And Kara from Scotland says, when you find your gift, you regain your passion and are more likely to succeed as well. And she's actually she's a sketch artist. That's what she does now. And it's amazing. So she found the courage to do that.
Tim, she was doing little watercolor and pen sketches of buildings around the town just for herself, just to do a thing. She has hundreds of them now. And now people are commissioning sketchingfife.com. Am I right?
On Facebook, it's Sketching Fife. I'm not sure.
It's on Facebook, right?
Wow.
Find her.
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
But find her. Don's joining late. You're late.
Yeah, I guess we'll
Don.
start the
Hey,
show
Don.
over.
I love Don, man.
Don, hang on a second. We'll start. Okay, if you're joining us right now,
Reboot.
Let's go back. All right.
Yeah. I've had a yellow card or two. It's all over for you, Don. When you said about flipping burgers and all that, I was hanging out. My name drop. I was hanging out with JJ French, Twisted Sister.
Wow.
And JJ was at this conference that I didn't expect him to be in. So you got to understand, like, you don't normally expect people that you rocked out to in the 80s just to turn a corner and he's just standing there. And he's massive. He's super tall.
Yeah.
I'm 6'2". Todd, you're 6'4"?
Yeah, 6'4".
Yeah.
6'4" a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So JJ's like 6'3" or something, because I'm 6'2". And when I see another tall person, it's like, hello, over the little people. And I asked him, after I tried embarrassingly to quote like most of the song Under the Blade to him, where he stops me and he goes, dude. He goes, I play the guitar. I don't know anything that guy is singing. I don't know any of the words.
That's so true. My instructor never knows the words. He'll like kind of fake sing along with it when he's trying to teach me a new thing. He doesn't know any of them.
That's hilarious.
So Kate tried to stop in Chicago.
And he plays it like 17 times a day.
So I asked him a question. I said, so do you ever just want to punch people in the mouth for playing I Want to Rock? He goes, would I rather do that or flip burgers? Is the song called Party Like a Burger Flipper? Is the song called Party Like a Line Cook? No, it's Party Like a Rock Star. He goes, I will play that song until no one pays me to play it anymore. And then maybe I'll still play it.
But that's the funny thing about all this kind of stuff to me is it's like, when we're talking about accountants, I actually want to have like my accountants sign an 8x10 and put it on my wall, because I don't know what the hell he's doing, but I'm fascinated by that. The same as the guy who comes and fixes the pipe in the bathroom. I'm like, dude, wow, I need your 8x10, put it up on my wall, because I think that I can't do that. I have these other skills that are not, I can't apply them to real life. So when I see other people do something like flipping a great burger, that guy's a rock star, like that. I love that stuff. So
you got to follow your gifts. When I was a lawyer, I would drop contracts and stuff and business, terms and stuff like that. And I would always think, man, they're doing some really cool stuff. Like they're creating cool stuff. And I'm here doing this contract. And it was like a real problem for me. I had to get back into doing more creative stuff. You got to follow those internal directions. Kara of Sketching Fife says her small things snowballed into more than she could imagine. And I think that's how it goes.
That's awesome.
You can't envision where you're going to end up. It doesn't
That's right.
It doesn't work that way.
And I think that's part of what, Carrie, how you're following your gift is one way when you receive this confirmation, like more doors open. And then I think also too, when you experience joy when you're doing it, I think that's a good sign that you're following your gifts.
Chris, doing the show with you brings me joy every day.
You guys. Oh, Jason Fillmore.
Jason Miller checking in. I bet he's got some really nice pictures of Todd.
Rockstar Jason Miller.
Yes. Amazing concert photographer, marketer.
The Fillmore.
Author.
We were doing a tour with Aerosmith. I'm dropping names. Watch your feet. And Joey Kramer, the drummer, had a heart issue, so they canceled this show in San Francisco. And in the last minute, they were saying they were going to try and book a last minute show for us at the Fillmore. And I was like, that's never going to happen. I go, it's like I got feet up. I'm like watching whatever I'm watching. Like that's never going to happen. And they made it happen. It was like, boom, the Fillmore. We're playing right now. Let's go. I was like, what?
Grab your stuff.
Yeah. And the Fillmore is like one of those legendary spots. You're like, wow, that was a great night. That was a really special night.
Oh, Kara was saying she used to.
Was that Kara's work?
Yeah. Look at this.
Wow. Those are beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. And now they come hauling around asking her, could you please do it? She goes, sure, for some money. And now she can actually do her job, So I thought that was pretty big. That was big.
Wow. That's
impressive.
I
love those stories.
So can you imagine? I've seen that so many times. Somebody that has just this amazing gift for something and it inspires joy in other people. And they're like, but I have to do this other thing for reasons. And it's heartbreaking.
Doesn't it? It's so weird to me when I'm at a party or something like that, and some guy I know or some girl I know who's just a random person is a normal person and civilian, and then they'll sit down at a piano and suddenly I'll go, what the? Oh yeah, I took piano as a kid. I go, dude, it just blows my mind. It's like having this other Jedi skill that I didn't know that they had. Everybody has something, and I think it's just a matter of your passion, I suppose, to chase it down.
Oh yeah, no question about it. And everybody has gifts that they can bring to bear on whatever job they're doing. So, be nice to everybody. Everybody.
Yeah,
kind of animals as well.
Volumes you've never read.
Speaking about being kind, one of the things I find kind of interesting about the both of you, because we're always looking for what's the alchemy, and to me, it's always apparent, but it's fun to see how it kind of blends and shows up in the show. You're both super nice people. Even when I try to say mean things to people, to Todd, sometimes he's like super nice back. Oh yeah, he was kind of different, that guy. I'm like, I don't like this guy playing with you guys.
He won't dish with me.
And Todd's like, well, he's very popular where he's from. There's not a mean sentence out there.
That's Canadian. That's what that is. That's just
yeah.
Yeah.
See, Carrie, you're Scottish, Carrie. You don't get to love that. You don't get to say that that's nice. It's nice when he's nice. But Scottish people are not. I mean, they are, but like, they're also very direct.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Which I appreciate.
Okay, so we're at the end of the show, and there's this thing that we do here because the show's called the Backpack Show. Why is it called that, Chris? Because you're an idiot. Okay, good answer. So
why am I here? I could have asked you that.
You can answer that. What goes in your backpack is the question. It's a metaphorical backpack. Sometimes people put actual practical things in it. Really funny answer Monday. So the question is, what kind of things do people need to add to their backpack to make their life bigger, better, wonderful for the next 5 years, or smaller? Or what comes out of the backpack? I forget what someone took out of it. I think it was doubt. I think doubt came out of the backpack. Ego, right? Dang it. Sure. Those are oral nuts. So what do you think we need to put into that backpack? Let's start with Tim Washer. Tim.
I'd put in encouragement. You got to have some things. And actually, I'm starting to put up new photos of friends, around the house. Just surround myself, just remind myself, hey, I actually have some friends and dear friends who encourage me. And I think that's what we need. I'm working on some projects now around encouragement to just remind people, because this is a time we've got to encourage ourselves. One thing I'd take out is shame, and shame just ruins us. My friend Carlos Hidalgo suggested a book called Lovable that I read. It's just amazing. So if you're struggling with shame, go check out the book Lovable. It's so good. That's what I would do.
I like it. Encouragement goes in, shame comes out. I think it's big.
Yes, sir.
Todd, damn it. Kerns, what do you think we need to add into that backpack?
Well, Tim's is so much more involved. Mine was just going to be like Ramon's first album.
That's encouragement.
But then you should take out the doubt and then put in that Ramon's first album. Yeah. I think that's actually, it's funny that in a way I say that, but metaphorically, I really feel like whatever makes you feel good and whatever makes you happy, I think is important. I remember the first time I found The Office, the English television show, I was having the worst day. I can't remember what it was. It was like the worst day possible. And I sat down on the couch one day and was just flicking around. I found that, and it was like, because it was in England, the series had already been out, so they kind of like just ran the whole thing. And I was just like, I always think it's really interesting when you surround yourself with the right people or the right music or the right, comedy or a good cup of coffee or whatever it is can just change your entire perspective and just it's like a whole turning of the page to the whole day is salvaged, as opposed to like, that was the worst day ever. But I just happened to be watching Ricky Gervais do his thing, and I was like, it just changed my day. And I always think about that. Like, it's so weird how that'll happen. And it happens to me every day where I'm like, something's annoying. And then you'll kind of like, oh, I love this In Excess song or whatever it is. And you turn it up and it just changes the whole pH level of the room. And I think it's important to do that, whatever that is for you. I think that, and that's Ramon's first album for me, whenever it's kind of like, ugh, I hate having to do this long drive, press play. I'm having the best time of my life driving through this terrible traffic. It's just how it goes.
For Don Stanley, it's the Backpack Show. He says, seriously, you need to work on having more fun doing it.
Oh, Don calls it like he sees it, man.
Oh, yeah. And he loves you. So he says he's got your 6.
Thanks, bro.
Watcher. You're on your own, Todd.
Todd Kerns.
Oh, I guess I have to end the show. All right, let me look for some things here. We have a person of the day kind of a situation. We explained that we have somebody that we think is the person of the day. I've been really thinking, who do I want to make the person of the day? But I think we have to go with our friend and former guest, Debbie Saviano, because she reminded us that Brad Pitt started out wearing a chicken suit for fast food.
El Pollo Loco.
And then he went away.
El Pollo Loco, yeah.
Then he went away and became Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Right.
That
and now he eats chicken. I can't find that button. There we go.
Oh my God, he eats in every movie.
In every film.
Stop.
Whatever happened to that kid? That kid's got a real future.
We'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on him, Tim.
He has a sense of humor of his own as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have we kind of hit the wall here, but we have a little tradition around here, and it's usually to quote things that my grandmother says. My grandmother's very wise, and she said a lot of things over her years. And I think the one that sums up the kind of spirituality